Okay, guys, so with Maze Runner The Death Cure on its way to theaters this weekend, I figured I'd go ahead and review the first one and re-review the second movie. So here is my review for the first one. There's going to be a couple spoiler mentions in this review, so that is your warning if you have not seen the movie. So there we go. Now, going into this, well, not going into it, when I saw the trailer and when I first saw the trailer, I thought it was going to be a little bit of a knockoff of Hunger Games since these movies that seem similar to Hunger Games have been coming out ever since the first movie hit theaters, and turns out that this movie did not lack originality as much as Divergent did, because Divergent is a carbon copy of the Hunger Games, and I did honestly like Divergent, and I honestly did, like I like this movie more than Divergent, and because it felt more like its own thing, even though at least the trailer looks very Hunger Games ish. But this movie itself, um, no, it felt like its own thing. I mean, some people compared it more to Lord of the Flies. I never really dove into that story, but from what I hear about it, I'm like, oh, okay. So that's how I took it. Um, and it has a couple elements from other movies that I have watched, and I gotta say, the performances in this movie were better than I thought they were going to be. I didn't think it was gonna suck, but I thought it was just gonna be pretty decent. But it turned out to be much better. I mean, like led by Dylan O'Brien. I mean, the first time I saw him in a serious role, like since him stepping out of his character styles from the Teen Wolf series, where he's just funny, the funny, likable best friend of Scott, and then here where he's playing Thomas, and he is the lead character this time in this movie, and he does a fantastic job. And not to mention the actor who plays Gally. I mean, like, I remember him, from We Are the Millers. That's the only other movie I've seen him in, and he was a total goof in that too. And to see them both in serious roles in here, like where it's no it's no laughing matter with these two in this movie. I'm like, wow, they managed to snap me out of their previous roles, like that I've mentioned, and that's what I wanted. And it's funny when I think of Gowie. I'm thinking, I'm kind of surprised they didn't try to approach like Jack Gleason, like from Joffrey from Game of Thrones. I'm surprised they didn't. Always, I don't know if they approached him or not, but I assume they didn't. But they probably wouldn't. He probably wouldn't be available because he had such a demanding schedule at that time. But still, I mean, I couldn't help but picture him. And like if I were to think of Galley before who they got for that role, I would have pictured Jack Gleason. But the actor they chose, yeah, I mean it fits him. He fits it like a glove. And I gotta say, like as I watched this movie from beginning, middle, and end, I wasn't in suspense when it came down to um, where we had to be outside of the maze, like where it's nighttime and then these creatures called grievers are like lurking around and getting a hold of any poor soul who happens to be outside when they shouldn't be, like when it's like like past curfew. Yeah. Like when Thomas just foolishly went out there and took on one, and well, not really took one on, but he went out there and faced it and got it to chase him, and then he got it killed successfully. I mean, it's just like it is typical plot armor because he's the lead character, but still, I mean, like I was on the edge of my seat during that. And I'm like, holy fuck! I mean, like I I don't think he like I didn't think he was gonna be killed, but I was still on the edge of my seat, like, oh man. And that was an intense scene. I mean, like when I watched it again, still on the edge of my seat. And then when it got down to where Teresa comes into the picture, and then when she sees Thomas and they see each other, And then later on, you see that that Thomas, like actually works, like for at this place that that got those kids into the maze or whatever, and you see that Teresa, like is has worked there as well. And that kind of reminds me of, okay, spoiler warning if you have not seen Resident Evil. It kind of reminds me of, like when they did that with Resident Evil with Alice and one of the other characters, where they both worked for Umbrella, and then both of their memories were wiped out, and then they find themselves in the same predicament, and then yeah, so it's no different than Thomas and Teresa, and when it came down to where Thomas got everybody to leave, actually leave and go, um, still, I was on the edge of my seat. I was invested into their stories. And I gotta say, even though it seemed like Gally was running things there, I felt like, what is the character's name? Yeah, I felt like Albie, like would have been a really good leader in that group. I think he had leadership qualities. I think he represented a leader, and to me at least. Even though it felt more like, even though Thomas sort of became their leader and led them out of the maze. So and yeah, and for some reason everybody seems to have an issue with the ending. However, I was okay with it. I just took it as, like where we get a sneak peek of what to expect in the sequel, and I took it as that. And I thought the movie was much better than I thought it was going to be. It wasn't another complete Hunger Games knockoff. I mean, there were some similarities there, and it had some similarities from other movies, but it was still its own thing. I mean, it had enough originality, like for me to dive into. So, without all being said, this movie gets 4 chair spins out of 5. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4 epic solid chair spins. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed my review for this movie, make sure you thumb up the video, click subscribe. If you're new to the channel, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, y'all.